So you want to be an off-roader then, eh? Come this way. What a beautiful day, hey? Come out here in the sunshine, see a bit of the countryside, and take your best pal with you. This is my bike. This is my Fantic Casa E 250. This is a 250cc, fuel injected, 4-stroke, single cylinder obviously, trail enduro bike. So if you're looking to get into green laning, bit of soft enduro, that kind of thing, look no further than this. A lot of you are probably considering a CRF 250L by Honda, which is a great bike, don't get me wrong, but it's not as much of an off-road bike as this is. This is not your road bike converted to an off-road bike. This is your off-road bike converted more to a road bike. So if you're thinking of the Honda would be, I would say, around about a 25% off-roader and a 75% on-roader. This is probably the other way around. This is probably 75% off-road, 25% on-road. Don't get me wrong, it's not that you can't ride it on the road. You could buy this bike and ride it to work every day if you wanted to. Long service intervals if you're going to use it like that too. 600 miles for the first one, 2,000 something, maybe 3,000 for the next one. However, you're here on my channel looking at a review of the Fantic Casa 250 because it's an off-road bike. So throw all that stuff out the window about long service intervals. Same with every off-road bike really. Anything, DRZ, CRF, if you're going to be using any of them, these are oil change, oil filter change, at the minimum every, say, I don't know, 4 rides maximum, because you're going to be sucking up a lot of crap. There's a lot of crap on this, and this isn't even the summer. When it's dusty it's bad, when it's wet it's bad. So service intervals are short. Bear that in mind, okay? I didn't know that when I started. I was told what the manual said. Throw it out the window. Everything in it, throw it out the window. Join our Facebook group, the Fantic Casa group as well, if you're interested in one of these. That's where the people with the actual knowledge are. Anyway, I've digressed a little bit and also stayed on topic. So what's this bike like? Well, out of the factory, it's pretty much the same as it is now. The only real modification I've made to this bike is the front sprocket down here. I've changed it from a 14 tooth to a 13 tooth. And the only reason I did that is because off-road, the 14 was a bit long for me. I like to do some of the more challenging stuff, and that 13 tooth front sprocket gears it down enough that I don't have to be in first gear all the time, and it makes second and third more usable. Previously I had first and second, you'd be screaming the tits off first and off second, but if you knocked it into third, you'd be bogging down all the time. So with the 13 tooth on the front, it shortens those gear ratios a bit and makes it much more usable. I've probably lost 10 miles an hour off the top end, but, which you probably don't know actually because you're quite new to this, these tyres are not fast road tyres, not by any stretch of the imagination. You can do 70 miles an hour on these. You can go as fast as the bike will go on it. Do you want to? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, when we're out green laning, we're getting on the speedo sort of 60 miles an hour on the country lanes between roads, but the reality is the bike's not doing that. I've geared it down anyway, and speedos aren't exactly accurate. They're just made in a factory to be sort of within tolerances-ish. So you've got to ask yourself, do you already going that fast? No, you don't, not if you're off-roading. So these tyres are more than adequate for that. They're the Mitas yellow banded enduro tyre. Check out my knowledge. I criticised these tyres like a bugger for ages. Not because they really let me down, but because they were hard, very hard. Turned out it was me the whole time. I thought I'd dropped the pressure in them and I hadn't. I'd kept the pressure at 18 front and back. Don't get me wrong, stock they come out of the factory with 26 or 30 or something. I'd only dropped them down to 18, so my gauge must have been faulty. Since I've dropped that rear tyre down to 8, and I've only been out on one ride, and this, it's fantastic, much, much better. The grip levels, even in the snow, maybe not the ice where I crashed, but in the snow are much better. So let's get back to the bike. 910 to 915 mil seat height, okay? This is a hard seat. You can push it in, but after sitting on it for a few hours, your arse will be ruined. It's not a road bike sit-downy seat. That said, when you're sitting down on the bike, you will be on the road, and those should be few and far between because you're off-roading. The foot pegs, whilst they are stock and they are cheap, are actually pretty decent. They're quite wide, they'll fit a decent sized boot. You've got enough room to get under the levers, speaking of levers. That's the gear lever. 6 speed, 1 down, 5 up. Brake lever on the right hand side. Right, keep this to yourself, don't tell anyone. It's a bit guff if I'm honest. It's about that wide. I can barely get my boot on it. Everybody says the same thing, except certain people who should remain nameless. But it's a bit guff if I'm honest. Moving on to the brake, seeing as we talked about the lever. The front brake. It's quite rudimentary, but it does its job. The front brake is pretty good. It's got a decent pull once it's set up right. It's got a decent clamping force, it's not too aggressive. It's not overly smooth because it's nothing fancy. The rear brake, it's not the best rear brake in the world if I'm honest. It will stop you with your full body weight on it. You're very rarely going to lock up the back wheel unless the ground is seriously soft. And it's a bit grabby. There isn't much in the way of upgrades for it, so you can't really change a great deal. But it does work. So if you, and let me get this point clearly across, I don't just like green lane, poodle around on it. I like to ride it quite hard, and that's why the brake is a little bit grabby and a little bit not so brakey, shall we say, for want of a better phrase. If you are just going to poodle down the lanes at 5 miles an hour, do a little bit of light road work, these brakes are fine. They are absolutely fine. They have to be, or they wouldn't be able to sell it. So let's get that clear. Out of the factory, the chain that it comes with, believe what a Facebook group tells you. The chain out of the factory is garbage, total garbage. It is named, but they must have just found some naming stamp somewhere because it's trash. Every one of us has had to change it quite early on, especially if you're off-roading. It will wear the crap out of it. The term is stretch. It doesn't stretch. What it does is it wears all the pins and the rollers inside and then gains length because the bit... Anyway, that's too technical. Yeah, so get yourself a chain. Learn how to do bike maintenance. I've got a load of videos on bits I've done, I had to learn over the last year. Feel free to watch those and not do what I do it right. You've got the most inaccessible air filter in motorcycling history. It's nearly as inaccessible as having an air filter in a building in a different town to you. You have to have the seat out. You have to have the battery out. You have to strip down the battery tray and take the battery tray out to get to the air filter. Now, for me, the first time I cleaned it was an absolute ball ache, and it's not something I really ever want to do, but I do have to do it. The plus side of that, and there is some method behind their madness, I'm sure of it, it's not just coincidence that I found this, it means the only way into your airbox for air is about here. Well, how many times do you get water, an abundance of water here? You don't. They've even scalloped out the back of the fender, mudguard, for the UK residents, so the water runs down and under the seat. That's a really good design. That's had some thought in it. When we all saw it the first time, we all said, "Well, stupid idiot did this." There is method there. There really is. People are trying to do airbox mods on it. It's entirely up to you. Join the group. You'll find out. You'll be able to do it yourself. Right. Let's talk this engine. Right. Let's talk about this Zhongshen engine. It's not a Fantic engine. It's a Zhongshen. The Zhongshen 250. It's a Chinese engine, made in China, shipped to the Fantic factory, and assembled there. It is the best part about this bike, in my opinion. That little engine there, that 250, is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Watch my videos, you'll see I've been out with people on Beaters, KTMs, Huskies, Yamahas, I can't think of any other names at the moment. Oh, Honda, I didn't say Honda. And that engine keeps up with all of the bikes off-road. It goes up everything that all the other bikes go up. It's not going to do Werndu or Vendi or whatever it's called, Quarry, very well, if I'm honest, because it hasn't got that much power and torque. But what it does do is green laning exceptionally well, just as well as all the other bikes. Let's talk about reliability of the engine, shall we? So, as you can see, it's not particularly clean because it's been off-roading, you've just seen me. You don't have to take massively good care and babysit this engine. This engine is kick-ass and it will just keep going. Seriously, it will. This bike's done 1800 miles. Yes, I've changed the oil. That's it. I don't have to do anything else to it. It doesn't have to be looked at in any special way. I just drop the oil out, take the filter out, put the filter in, put new oil in, turn it over, job done. Simple as that. Air filter, I said it's difficult to get to. I haven't actually changed it. I've cleaned it many times. I blow it out with a vacuum that does blow. I brush it all off and I suck it all out. It doesn't ever really get that wet to worry about. If it got soaking wet, yes, I'd probably have to change it quite regularly. You see a lot of these boys with the KTMs, the Huskies, the Beaters, oiling their filters and having to replace it all the time. And it's got a nice little hatch here. Well, the reason it's got a hatch there is so you can get to it. The problem is if you can get to it easy, the elements can get to it easy. Our filter, we don't have to worry about that. So in my opinion, as I said, the engine is the best point of this whole bike. Its ergonomics are pretty good, they suit me well. I'm 5'10". I shall try and stand on it without sinking down too far into the mud. That's me up on it. I'm 5'10". I can sit on it, I can get the balls of my feet down, no problem. Hardish seat, but you know, it's comfortable. Hand position's pretty good. I rolled my handlebars forward slightly after a tip off one of the guys on the Facebook group. Go join it. I might even go a little bit further forward to get them a little bit further away from me for when I'm standing up. But it is a good seating position. This is a good standing position, good ergonomics. I do like that. The one and only thing I really detest is the suspension. As I said, non-adjustable all around, front and back. Now don't get me wrong, it's not that they're crap and you ride around doing this all the time because you can't steer. Quite the opposite. It's planted when you're riding in straight lines. It's okay over ruts. The problem is the rebound is horrendous. Whatever you hit, you come back with more force. With good dampening on a bike, you should go into it, bonk, the bike should compress and the bike should then return slowly so that you're controlled. This thing doesn't, it goes bonk and fires you off. So you have to be constantly wrestling it when it's bad and rutty. Personally, I quite like that. In the year I've had this bike, which is the year I've been off-roading, I think I've learned quite a lot because of this. I think if I'd have bought a much more expensive, more plush bike, I wouldn't have learned as much as I have done about bike control. The rear end, same again, whatever it hits, bong, it comes back far, well, the same speed, if not faster. It's incredible. When you hit something, you hit it and you know. You deflect off, you bounce around. It doesn't absorb any bumps or cracks. It just comes straight back at you. So by the end of the day, someone riding a KTM, Husky, Honda, Beta is going to be a bit more fresh than you are when they get back. And when they tell you they're tired, give them 5 minutes on your bike. Shout out to Lauren, because Lauren rode my bike for about 5 minutes, got off and said, how in the F do you ride this thing? It's so hard. I know, right? So anyway, that's the thing I don't like. I don't like the suspension. I can't be doing it. It's very, very hard, and it's one of the reasons that I've looked at changing the bike. But again, because of my Facebook group that I'm in, I go searching. I use the search function, which all you noobs should do. Use the search at the top, and I do suspension or forks or shock. There's different shocks you can get. By Hagon, we've got two different ones, a lowering one and a regular height one, which vastly improve the rear end of the bike apparently. The front end, drop the oil out, put a lighter gauge oil in it, or a heavier gauge oil on it, whatever the terminology is. They're currently, nobody knows what's in it. People, Neil I think it was, has put 7.5 weight in his, and then the rest of the guys have put 5 weight in theirs. If I do it, I'm going to go with the 5 weight, I reckon. And that should soften it a little bit, so when you hit something, it shouldn't be quite as hard when you hit it. It should compress a little bit more. It shouldn't be as bouncy as well. Right, let me give you a quick tour around the bike, the dirty bike, and then I'm going to take you out there for some riding. So this is where you're going to find, a lot of you are going to find yourselves riding. Down green lanes, cross rutty muddy stuff. I mean, it's a bit, the ground's going to be a bit wet. Yeah, there's some puddles over there. We've got a drop in over here, so we're just going to go flip of the throttle, jump off the edge. Lovely. Well, that's very wet. Very, very mucky. Back wheel's got no traction whatsoever. I mean, listen, you can hear the back wheel. The back wheel just skids up. Pop it up a little gear. And this is one of the things that the Fantic excels at. Not a massive engine, not massive power. As I said before, 28 horsepower. I don't know what the torque is actually. But it will go low down and it will just plod up. That elevation is about 15 feet. This stuff is like clay here, and it will just plod straight up. You can hear there's no real revs. Listen to how low down that's lugging. Okay, so this is the ergonomics of standing up on this bike. I'm stood up now, perfectly comfortable. I can grip with my knees when I need to. I can reach the bars, no problem. Here's my hands on the handlebars. Everything's within reach of me. I've got a size 10 boot on. I'm a size 9 foot, but the former ones come up a little bit small. So I've got a tiny bit of room in these, but yeah, they're about right. So I'm size 9, but the boot's a bit bigger. If you look down there, you can see where I am. I'm stood mid-foot at the minute. I can get on the gears. I can fit it underneath the switch and install it. Never work with kids and animals. Look at all these spider webs. Ugh. They creep me out. Back into second. They're literally everywhere. They're all over me. Look at that spider pig soon. Right, so mid-foot, there's my gear, my brake. I can just literally get the outer edge of my boot on. If you've got a rolled boot rather than like a square toe like these have, you really will struggle. Look at the size of that Nerf dart. What? So then, in conclusion on this beautiful, most glorious of March days, and I don't want to be corny, but this is the first day of spring, and spring has sprung. This might not even be the 1st of March, but just in case it is, spring has truly sprung. Look at it. Check it all out now. That's where we were, all the way over there. Anyway, so what can I say, apart from, God damn it, I've now got to go clean my bike. Look at the state of it. This bike truly is exceptional. Don't let the naysayers who know nothing about this bike put you off. The ones that say, Fantic, oh, it's a little Chinese, oh, it's Chinese. Shut the chuff up, you unknowledged jabronis. There you go. I said it. Yeah, he went there. This bike is truly exceptional. For the money you pay for this bike, you cannot get anything better. And that's up for debate. It's subjective. It's also true and factual. This bike is truly exceptional. I love this bike. I really do. It's my first foray into off-roading. It has taken me places that I never thought I would ever go. I've seen things I never thought I'd ever see, like generally that sort of stuff with my face in it, that sort of stuff with my feet, knees and arse in it. Those big hills with me at the top of it, also on the side of it lying down and at the bottom of it lying down. Yeah, you really will struggle to find a better off-road bike than this. I kid you not. If you can arrange for a test ride, go and have a test ride on it. It is fantastic. And if you're a newbie, there is nothing better. That's a fact. Absolutely fact. If you're a newbie who wants to properly go off-roading, this is the bike for you. You know, if you are the type that wants to ride around these sort of surfaces when you're going off-road, the type of person that just wants to ride off-road and it involves going off that curb there and then back onto the road, get yourself a Honda CRF. It will fare you far better if you're predominantly going to be riding on road. What you will find though is when you drop it the first time on a lane, you might need to hand picking it up. This is 103/104 kilograms dry weight, obviously. With fuel in it, it's got 7 litre-ish tank, so it's going to get 7 kilos because its water weight is a litre per kilo. So it's going to have 7 litres extra, 7 kilos extra there. It's got oil in it, litre of oil, another kilo, probably a bit heavier actually, it's more dense. What else it got in it? Rad water, maybe another litre. So you're looking at probably about 114, 115 kilos, I'd say, fully laden. And then my big fat ass on it. This bike is a piece of piss to pick up. Thankfully I haven't had to pick it up that many times. Unfortunately, when I have had to pick it up, it's been in some right awkward positions. Go check out my other videos. There'll be a link to a playlist at the end of this one, and you will see for yourself the times I've had to pick this bike up, like when I took it on the Enduro track and had to pick it up every approximately 14 centimetres. So, in closing, what can I say? If you want to get into off-roading, and you want to really get into off-roading, go get yourself a Fantic Casa 250 EFI. If you much prefer a carb, go get a carb model. It's pretty much the same bike. These are just newer. You have to get yourself a fancy red chain as well. If you want to get a brand spanking new one, you might be lucky, but I very much doubt it, that you could probably pick up this model, the Casa, in 2021, guys. But the latest one is called the XEF, and I think they're already being sold, so you'll probably struggle to get one of these. I mean, if you look on Auto Trader, you're not going to find one because they don't go second hand. There aren't millions of these in the country, and the people that have got them keep them because they're good. or sell them on within 5 seconds. So if you are looking for one, you have to be quick. If you just want to plod around the countryside a little bit and mainly ride on the road, go get yourself a Honda CRF, get yourself some unknobbly-ish tyres, more road bias ones, and you will be fine, and you'll also have great fun, because let's be honest, this here is what it's all about. This, not those houses, ignore the houses. Imagine this was 10 years ago. Well, those houses were there. They weren't there 5 years ago. Anyway, it's all about this. Ignore them houses too. It's all about this narrow field of view here. Getting out in the green, getting out in the fresh air with your pals, getting covered in shit and dirt. I mean, I don't wash these clothes. These clothes absolutely stink as well. I'm not putting these in my washing machine. Yeah, so that's what it's all about. It's all about getting out there. So no matter what you've got, you'll have fun. But if you really, really want to go hard, get yourself the Fantic Casa 250. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Stay cool.